Hello everybody, Tyler King here with a new episode of NuReview. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the fourth solo album by Peter Murphy, Holy Smoke. Holy Smoke is released on, I believe, April 14th of 1992, and the lineup on this album is pretty much the exact same as the lineup on his last album. Peter plays vocals, he co-produced, writes every song on this album. He plays guitar on the song Let Me Love You and keyboards on the song Our Secret Garden. Paul Statham plays keys and co-writes almost every song here, I believe. He plays bass on Let Me Love You and acoustic guitar on Our Secret Garden. Um, Peter Bonis plays guitar on here as well as co-writing the song Low Room and Hit Song. Eddie Branch plays bass, and Terrell Bryant is on drums, and both of those also co-wrote those same two songs, Our Secret Garden, or not Our Secret Garden, Low Room, and Hit Song. The album does also see contributions from a lot of outside players. John Vartan plays the Zerna and I believe the Ney on the song Keep Me From Harm. Rick Schaefer plays guitar on Low Room and Dream Gone By. Zoe Carroll and Alison Limerick, who is a solo artist as well as appearing on some releases by This Mortal Coil, do vocals on the Sweetest Drop and Hit Song. And finally, Jeannie Ball, Jonathan Carney, and Audrey Riley play strings on the song Hit Song. Mike Thorne co-produced this album and also plays the synclavier. And actually, Anton Corbijn, who's very known for his photography work with bands like U2 and Depeche Mode, provided the artwork and photography for this album. Singles were, I believe, You're So Close, The Sweetest Drop, and Hit Song. So let's get right down to it. Let's start this review. The album opens up with the song Keep Me From Harm. And Keep Me From Harm opens with a very unique intro. It's a fade-in of all of these multi-tracked vocals by Peter going ho, 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 and it's a very weird and interesting way to open the album. It gets more and more abrupt before a couple of snare hits welcome Eddie Branch's very slinky bass line and Paul Statham's atmospheric keyboards into the song. Right off the bat, you do get a much more relaxed feeling in this song than most really anything on Deep. And this song really does present the atmospheric feeling that we are going to get on a fair number of songs on this album. And much like the song Deep Ocean Vast Sea, and I would say partly All Night Long from his last couple of albums, this does really help to set the stage for what we are going to hear over the course of this album. Peter welcomes us in, singing, Health is all I'm asking for, love is all I need, over some plucked acoustic guitar that joins in. And the chorus here is particularly emotional. Peter just gushes forward, love me, hold me, keep me from harm, and these keyboards just wash over the rest of the instrumentation as this very scarce or scarce mallet instrument comes in, which does remind me a bit of the instrumentation on All Night Long. The song is very lush feeling, it is very seducing feeling, or seductive I should say, and that really is what a lot of this album is going to sound like. Then the second song on the album is Kill the Hate, and I used to really not like this song. I used to think it was very annoying, and I know that it isn't really a lot of people's favorite song on this album, partly because the opening slapped bass line sounds a lot like the opening slapped bass line of the Seinfeld theme song. The percussion here, along with the bass in the intro, are some bongos. There's some interesting acoustic guitar going on, and Peter sings Take Me on a Trip, Take Me from the Hip, in this very hushed tone. At the end of the second verse, as he sings, Oh, I won't need the proof, all of a sudden the instrumentation just surges outward from under him. We get these droning keyboards going on under this very slick guitar lead. Over the rest of the song, Peter gives a very unhinged vocal performance. His voice going from highs to lows, from very relaxed to very manic, with this reckless abandon. After the third verse, when Peter does finally sing "Kill the Hate," we just have this killer organ riff that that pops up throughout the remainder of the song, most notably in the end. Peter is just desperately singing this title of the song over and over, "Kill," and it's just a very fun moment on the album. This song does also kind of stick out like a sore thumb from the rest of the material on the album. It's not a very mysterious sounding song. It's definitely not a very lush sounding song, but I find it very fun and very endearing. The third song is "You're So Close," which was the second single released from the album, and I think that the song does work pretty well, but the slower parts of the song do make it kind of a weird single choice. The opening is very dramatic. We do get this throbbing bass line under this ethnic sounding arpeggiated percussion. An acoustic guitar strums as Peter is singing "Say You" before the song really revs forward, and these electric guitars just chug, the drums pound, Murphy sings, "I can hear the groove, I can hear the words." The song is one of the stronger ones on the album for me. Um, the lyrics and the performance by Murphy, I think, are exceptionally strong here. I do think that the transition before the slower parts and the more up-tempo sections of the song are also executed really well, which is something that can't be said for a couple of the other songs that Peter had tried doing this on in the past. It is just an all-around really good song, and it is one of the more fast-paced ones on the album, and I do really enjoy it, and I think it's a little bit of a nice way to calm us down after the frenzied "Kill the Hate." Following this is "The Sweetest Drop," which was the lead single from the album, and it opens up with some far-off instrumentation, then some keyboards, and female vocalization comes in. Peter's lyrics are more abstract here, as he sings, "Union upon union, in union we'll flower, sail naked in our founder, press toward the burst," as some very funky liquid bass and swanky guitar shimmers around him. The chorus does have some driving, chugging guitar like the previous song, "You're So Close," but I do prefer the faster parts of the previous song more than I do here. I do like the breathy female backing vocals and the synth part that comes into the song just before the 3-minute mark. Peter's vocals do become more impassioned as the song goes on, and they become frenzied as he's pleading, take me in the rain!" Starting around the 4-minute mark, we do have a very impressive guitar solo. Terrell Bryant does play some cool and interesting drum fills, and from there we get more female vocals, and it just unfortunately reminds me of something from like a late 80s Gary Newman album. I do think that the last couple of minutes of the song do take away from how good the first few minutes of it were. I just really do think that the instrumental outro here doesn't add anything to the song. Following this, we have Low Room, and Low Room is a little bit like the song "The Line Between the Devil's Teeth and That Which Cannot Be Repeat" from the album Deep, in that they both remind me of something that could have come, okay, maybe not necessarily had come out of his previous band Bauhaus, but that harken back to that sound. And there was always one or two songs on his first 5 or so albums that did that, and Low Room is the one instance of this on Holy Smoke. A strummed acoustic guitar and these pounding drums welcome us in, while we do get the squalling guitar in the background that creates this sense of unease. Finally, about 50 seconds in, the song lurches forward, and there's kind of a moment of goofiness as Peter goes like right before he actually does start singing the first verse. Any semblance of a chorus on this song is composed of a snare roll as Peter shouts, "Low! Room!" The lyrics here are again more abstract. Peter's singing, I don't know what I can do to break the chains. We talk a lot, we break high ground, no shame. That's in the second verse, and that is probably one of my favorite sets of lyrics on the entire album. Unfortunately, though, this really is the only song on the album that Peter has played continually over the last 6 or 7 years. And I've seen him about 8 times now, and unfortunately, I've never seen him play this song ever. And I've never really seen him play any song from this entire album. And I can see that obviously Peter thinks that this song is one of the better ones on the album just by the fact that he performs it somewhat regularly. I think that is a little bit unfair to the other songs on this album. Following this, we have Let Me Love You, and I will say that the beginning of the song does give a false impression because we get this very, it's like a discordant electronic beeps going on in this baritone guitar line. Peter's voice does have a bit of a sinister edge to it as he sings the line, Love me now until the end of time, and we do get some clanging and crashing going on in the background, but once the chorus hits, all this lush instrumentation, this very gentle, lovely acoustic guitar just comes out of this gloom, and it really turns into a declaration of love on Peter's part. Oh, let me love you in the morning light. Let me feel you come into my arms, Peter's multi-tracked vocals sing during the chorus, and it's a very pretty, beautiful moment on this song. There is a weird tooting horn sound in the second half, but there's really not too much variation throughout the rest of this song. I do think that the switch from the darker verses to the more lighthearted choruses, they work, but I just wish that they worked a little bit better. Overall, though, I will say that this is one of the better songs on the entire album. I do really enjoy it. The song is a bit more mid-tempo of a number, and the lyrics strike me as a love song. Peter sings, when you came into my heart, I knew the love was overflowing, and then you came into my heart. We knew for a start, each word like a book, with our spirit flowing over me. The song is very pleasant, but I think following Low Room and Let Me Love You, unfortunately to me, it just does kind of pass me by. It doesn't really leave too much of an impression on me. Following this, we have Dream Gone By, which is a more up-tempo song, following the mostly forgettable Our Secret Garden. And this song opens up with a fuzzy guitar lead and pounding drums, and it does hold much more promise than the previous song starting out. The transition to the first verse, I think, is a little bit awkward. The band sort of flounders over this abrupt change. The chorus, though, is where the song really picks up, as you get this pretty strummed acoustic guitar joining in as Peter sings, The love is calling, I'm searching, you have gone to be free. And the second chorus sees a reprise of, I want to say it's most of the first verse, but the vocal melody here I think works a little bit better this time around. As the song goes on, though, we do come to a section where Peter does this very unnecessary counting. He's going 1, 2, I am you, 3, 4, there's no more, 5, 6, no more tricks, before we are treated to a very pleasant instrumental interlude complete with a very calming guitar solo. Like the Sweetest Drop, and to a lesser extent Our Secret Garden, I do think that this song does overstay its welcome a little bit too long. I don't necessarily think its 6-minute runtime is necessary, especially given its content. It's an alright song. I don't dislike it as much as Our Secret Garden, but it just kind of flounders. Then next we have Hit Song, which is the final song taken from the album, and unfortunately it did not become the hit that the title hoped it would be. The song is a ballad with a pretty guitar line. We do get some very nice oohs welcoming us in as the song begins. Once Peter starts singing, it does remind me almost word for word of the opening of the song Roll Call from Deep. I mean, he pretty much sings Walking in the Street, Breath the Only Friend, which is practically what he was singing on Roll Call. The lyrics here, though, see Peter yearning for something more, singing in the chorus, "Wash my face in fields of green, take me to the stars for free." I really love the guitar during the pre-chorus as well. And during the second verse, some strings come in, and after the second chorus, we get this superb instrumental moment. This string section just breathes in and out around the drums, bass, and guitar. And as the song fades out, Peter joins in vocalizing with the backing vocalist, and it's a very touching final minute or so of the album as it all fades out. And I will say, before I went back and reviewed this album, this was not necessarily a song that I thought very highly of, but going back and listening to it over and over and over again, this has become one of my favorite songs on the album, and I think it is a very strong closer. I will say that I think that Roll Call is a little bit of a better closer on Deep, but this song, like Keep Me From Harm, is very representative of this album as a whole, and both of those songs are just incredibly lush, they are incredibly pretty, and they are great bookends to this album. Now, following this, we do get a very short untitled track. It's about 45 seconds long, and it's the same vocalization that Peter is doing at the beginning of the song Keep Me From Harm. And I don't know if this is a way of somehow combining the end of the album to the beginning of the album, and I don't really know why it is a completely separate track instead of just being like a 45 seconds tacked onto the end of Hit Song, because it doesn't necessarily work on its own song, or work as its own track, I should say, so I'm not quite sure what the justification there was, but yeah, that is Holy Smoke by Peter Murphy. Before I went back and reviewed these albums before I went back and started re-listening to these albums, Holy Smoke was an album that I didn't really care for, and I saw it almost as a step backwards, I guess, especially considering the albums immediately before and immediately after it, Deep and Cascade. And going back and re-listening to this album, I have much more of an appreciation for it. And I will say that the lows on this album are a little bit more low than the lows on Deep, but the highs here I think are just as strong. I think that this album is much more overall lush than Deep is. Deep has a ton of acoustic guitar on it, which is great and it's very beautiful sounding, but on Holy Smoke, I think that the entire band really has tapped into each other and have created this very rich soundscape. There are moments on the album that I'm not really big fans of, like the song Our Secret Garden, but I think that overall it's a very enjoyable album from front to back. One of the things that I've talked to my friend Richard about, he's also a very big Peter Murphy fan, is that regarding the albums Deep and Holy Smoke is that they both work together incredibly well as entire albums. I think that Love Hysteria is the kind of album where you can cherry pick a lot of songs from, and I think that Should the World Fail to Fall Apart does have, again, a couple of songs that are a little bit more skippable, but Holy Smoke, I think besides Our Secret Garden, there's not really a song on here that I think is boring or bad by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I just think it's a very powerful, well played, enjoyable album. Um, and it's now probably in my top 4 or 5 Peter Murphy albums, and it this really is a case where the first few times that I listened to this album, I guess I just didn't get it. Um, and I think that I just was too stuck on like, oh, this album is not Deep, this album is not Cascade, and I really didn't give it its fair shot. I mean, part of it has to do with the album artwork. One of my friends said that this is the face he makes after staying in the pose from the cover of Deep for too long, which I might agree with. But yeah, it's just a very enjoyable, good album. I will say favorites from here are going to be Kill the Hate, Low Room, and Hit Song. Least favorites here, hmm, least favorites are going to be The Sweetest Drop, Our Secret Garden, and Dream Gone By. But I think that every song on here besides Our Secret Garden really is a very solid song. Um, yeah. And I'll say just because of the strength of the album, I I wouldn't give it the same rating that I give Love Hysteria, which was a 7. I feel like this album definitely deserves an 8 out of 10. It's a very strong, I mean, I just, it creates a mood. It creates a very lovely mood and does not let up really for its entire run length. I mean, besides like Kill the Hate and Low Room, and there's not really much on it that I would change. So I would definitely gladly give this album an 8 out of 10. And that's my review of Holy Smoke by Peter Murphy. So what do you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Is this your favorite Peter Murphy album? Is this your least favorite Peter Murphy album? Please leave any comments and questions in the comment box below. Uh, I will get back to them. Next is going to be Cascade, which I'm going to get up as soon as I can. But in the meantime, this is Tyler King with NuReview. Holy Smoke. I'm trying to get that without glare. Oh, hey, look, it's me. Holy Smoke by Peter Murphy. 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.